Humans had always been curious. From the earliest days, they looked up at the stars and wondered who else might be out there. As technology advanced, Earth began to reach out, sending messages into the dark expanse of space. At first, these were small signals, simple greetings, attempts to say, "We are here, and we want to know you." Over time, these messages became more sophisticated. They carried not just words, but images of Earth, recordings of human life, and explanations of human culture. Each message was carefully crafted to show that humans were peaceful, curious, and eager to make friends. For decades, humans tried to connect. They sent ambassadors, unmanned probes, and long-range signals, hoping to hear back from other civilizations. Each attempt was a quiet plea. We want to share knowledge, trade ideas, and explore together. Some humans believed it would be like the stories of explorers on Earth, discovering new lands and building friendships. Others were more cautious, knowing that not every civilization might welcome contact. Still, the effort continued, because humans valued connection and believed that understanding others could make the universe a better place. At first, there were signs of hope. Occasionally, a signal would return, a short response that hinted at interest. These responses were often cryptic, but they kept the dream alive. Humans celebrated each reply, studying it for clues about alien culture, technology, and intentions. Every message, no matter how small, was a piece of a larger puzzle. Scientists, engineers, and linguists worked tirelessly to decode these communications. They believed that patience and persistence would eventually lead to true understanding. But as years passed, it became clear that many of these civilizations were not interested in friendship. Some ignored the messages completely. Others responded with hostility or dismissive replies, treating Earth's attempts as naive or even foolish. Diplomats traveled vast distances only to be met with cold indifference or subtle threats. Humans began to see a pattern. Not everyone in the galaxy shared their desire for peace. Some civilizations valued power over cooperation, control over understanding. Despite this, Earth continued its outreach, determined not to give up. What humans did not show openly was their careful observation. Every slight, every insult, every act of aggression was recorded and studied. Humans were patient, but they were not blind. They watched, learned, and adapted. They studied alien technology, behavior, and strategies, quietly preparing for the possibility that peace might not be possible. Even as they extended a hand in friendship, they were readying themselves for what could come if that hand was ever refused or struck. The people of Earth shared a collective hope that one day the galaxy would recognize the sincerity of their intentions. They believed that showing kindness and seeking dialogue could change hearts and minds. Yet there was also a quiet understanding among leaders and strategists that not all beings would respond to goodwill. Some might see it as weakness. Some might exploit it. Some might even try to harm humans simply because they underestimated them. That duality, hope and caution, defined humanity's approach. Every new attempt at communication carried both excitement and tension. Engineers tuned signals carefully, sending them at frequencies that could travel across light years. Linguists and anthropologists crafted messages that reflected human thought, emotion, and culture. Artists contributed images and sounds that represented the beauty and diversity of life on Earth. Even children's voices were included in some broadcasts, a symbol of innocence and the desire for future generations to live in a peaceful galaxy. And yet, despite all this effort, responses remained scarce. Many civilizations ignored the messages entirely, while a few sent replies that were either mocking or dismissive. Some humans grew frustrated, feeling the weight of being alone in a vast and often indifferent universe. Others remained steadfast, believing that perseverance would eventually yield results. This tension between hope and disappointment became part of the human story, shaping the way they thought about the stars and their place among them. Even in these early years, humans learned valuable lessons. They learned to read between the lines, to understand subtle signals, and to recognize patterns of behavior. They saw which civilizations valued knowledge, which valued power, and which valued neither. They realized that patience was necessary, but so was vigilance. The galaxy was full of unknown dangers, and not every being could be trusted. Humans began to understand that their journey toward peace would be long and difficult, requiring intelligence, strategy, and resilience. This was the beginning of humanity's long attempt to reach out to the stars. It was a story of patience, courage, and hope in the face of uncertainty. Humans had tried to show the universe that they wanted friendship, that they valued life, and learning over domination and conquest. Every message sent was a testament to this belief. And though many in the galaxy dismissed Earth's efforts as insignificant, humans continued, quietly preparing for a future in which their persistence might be the only thing that could protect them. In the quiet of mission control rooms, the hum of satellites, and the blinking lights of observatories, humanity kept reaching out. Every broadcast, every probe, every careful word was a promise. We are here. We seek peace. We will continue to try, no matter what. It was a promise that carried the weight of generations, a determination that would define Earth's place in the galaxy. And though the galaxy had not yet embraced this message, humans remained undeterred, confident that their efforts were not in vain. The story of these early attempts was one of courage without violence, hope without guarantee, and patience without surrender. It was the first chapter of a larger saga, one that would test humanity's resolve and shape the way the universe would come to see Earth, not just as a planet, but as a species willing to offer friendship and, if needed, capable of standing firm in its defense. The message had been sent, the hand had been extended, and humans waited, quietly observing, prepared for whatever might come next. Time passed, and the people of Earth began to realize that patience alone might not be enough. Their messages of peace continued to travel across the galaxy, yet the responses remained sparse or indifferent. Sometimes there were signs of interest, brief flickers of curiosity from distant civilizations. But more often than not, the reactions were cold, dismissive, or even hostile. It became clear that some species saw Earth not as a potential friend, but as a minor, unimportant planet. Others seemed to study humanity the way one might study a tiny creature in a lab, curious but unconcerned about its wishes or being dotted first. Humans tried to ignore these slights. They reminded themselves that not everyone could understand their intentions, and that patience was still a virtue. Scientists, engineers, and diplomats continued to work tirelessly, sending carefully constructed messages and probes into the void. They experimented with new ways of communicating, adding music, images, and even elements of humor, hoping to break through cultural barriers. Each attempt was a small act of faith, that somewhere out there, someone would respond with understanding, and humanity would finally find a true ally in the stars. But patience has its limits. As the decades went by, it became clear that some civilizations had no interest in peace at all. Some sent back threats disguised as warnings. Others attempted sabotage, hacking signals, or interfering with Earth's communications. Satellites were tampered with, probes were intercepted, and minor technological accidents began to occur under mysterious circumstances. Humans knew that these were not accidents, and that the galaxy was sending a quiet but unmistakable message. Earth was being watched, and not always kindly. This was a turning point. Humanity, known for its patience and diplomacy, began to understand that hope alone could not protect them. Leaders of Earth realized that they had to prepare for a future where peaceful communication might fail. They could no longer rely solely on goodwill. They needed strategies, plans, and technology capable of defending the planet and its people. While the public still believed in diplomacy, behind the scenes, scientists and military strategists were quietly preparing for scenarios that no one had imagined decades earlier. The preparations were extensive. Humans studied every signal received from other civilizations, analyzing behavior, language patterns, and technological signatures. They built advanced defensive systems, not for war, but for protection. They trained pilots, engineers, and scientists to respond instantly to threats. Even as they continued to send messages of peace, Earth was quietly building a foundation of strength. It was not about aggression. It was about survival. The galaxy had made it clear that humans could not rely solely on kindness, and humanity accepted that reality. Despite these preparations, humans remained deeply committed to their principles. They continued to hope that one day, the galaxy would recognize their sincerity. Peace was still their ultimate goal, but they had learned the hard way that peace required more than words. It required readiness. Humanity's dual approach became their strength: extend friendship, but be prepared to defend it. They had learned to be patient without being naive, to trust without being blind, and to act without losing their moral compass. Meanwhile, the general public of Earth remained largely unaware of the full extent of these preparations. For most people, life went on much as it always had. Children went to school, scientists conducted research, and diplomats traveled to international meetings. They were proud of their species' efforts to reach out to the stars, but they did not fully grasp the quiet vigilance happening behind the scenes. This separation between public awareness and hidden readiness allowed humanity to maintain its natural optimism, while simultaneously building a silent shield against potential threats. Humans also began to refine their understanding of communication itself. They realized that words alone were not enough. Actions spoke louder. When other civilizations ignored or dismissed their messages, humans started to study patterns, predicting how different species would react to various scenarios. They learned to anticipate potential threats and misunderstandings before they happened. Every gesture of peace, every message sent, was carefully calculated to show goodwill while minimizing the risk of misinterpretation. During this period, humans also began to reflect on themselves. They asked questions about their own nature, their history, and their capacity for both kindness and resilience. They remembered the lessons learned from Earth's own conflicts, wars, and struggles, realizing that survival often required both courage and cleverness. These reflections shaped not only their strategies for dealing with other civilizations, but also their vision for the kind of species they wanted to be. Humans wanted to be known as seekers of peace, but also as beings who would never be easily broken or manipulated. As the years went on, the quiet tension in the galaxy grew. Humans could feel it in the way signals were returned, in the subtle shifts in interstellar traffic, and in the occasional acts of interference. It became clear that some civilizations were testing humanity, probing their patience and resilience. And in response, humans sharpened their skills, improved their technology, and honed their strategies. Every day, they learned more about the galaxy, about others, and about themselves. Each lesson made them stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the day when patience might no longer be enough. This period marked the turning point in human history. For the first time, they understood that peace, while always worth striving for, could not be taken for granted. They realized that their attempts at friendship were being measured not just by their intent, but by their ability to endure and respond when tested. Humanity was no longer just a species sending messages into the void. They were a species learning to survive, adapt, and thrive in a galaxy that did not always welcome them. Even in this tense atmosphere, humans continued to act with dignity and compassion. They sent messages that celebrated life, creativity, and knowledge. They showcased their art, music, and literature. They shared the beauty of Earth's landscapes and the diversity of its people. In doing so, they reminded themselves and the galaxy of what they were capable of the side of humanity that sought to build bridges rather than burn them. But beneath this expression of goodwill, there was a growing determination. Humanity knew that the universe would not always respond with kindness, and they were quietly preparing for the consequences of that reality. By the end of this period, humans had transformed. They were still the species that reached out with hope and curiosity, but they had also become vigilant and capable. They had learned the limits of patience and the importance of preparedness. The attempts at peace had not been in vain. They had taught humans valuable lessons about strategy, resilience, and the nature of the galaxy itself. And as humans continued to look up at the stars, sending their carefully crafted messages, they did so with both hope and a quiet readiness for the day when words alone would not be enough. This was the second chapter in humanity's long story among the stars. It was a story of patience tested, lessons learned, and courage quietly built. Humans had reached out to the galaxy with a desire for friendship, and in the process, they had discovered the depth of their own strength. They were no longer just dreamers or explorers. They were a people ready to face a universe that had yet to fully understand them. And though the galaxy had not yet fully responded to their outreach, humans knew that one day their patience, their wisdom, and their quiet preparation would define the way the universe would see them, not as weak or naive, but as capable, resilient, and ready for whatever might come next. As years of patience and preparation continued, the leaders of Earth realized that the time for merely hoping and waiting had passed. Humanity had tried every possible way to communicate peace. Messages had been sent with images of children laughing, of forests swaying, of oceans glittering under the sun. Humans had shared their art, music, and scientific discoveries, each message carefully designed to show that they were a species willing to build bridges, not walls. Yet, despite all these efforts, the galaxy had largely ignored their calls. Some civilizations had responded with cold silence, while others had sent warnings, subtle threats, or even acts of sabotage. It was clear to Earth's leaders that words alone were no longer enough. Diplomacy had its limits, and too often, other species had mistaken patience for weakness. Humanity had spent decades studying these responses, learning how other civilizations thought, how they communicated, and how they behaved when confronted with unfamiliar or unexpected situations. They understood that they could no longer rely on goodwill alone. The galaxy had made it clear that some beings would only respond to actions, and humans had to act, but carefully, decisively, and with clear purpose. With this understanding came the decision to send one final message. This was not a message of anger, nor a declaration of war. It was a message of clarity, a statement that would leave no room for misinterpretation. For decades, Earth had attempted peace. For decades, humans had reached out with openness, kindness, and patience. But now, the message would say what the galaxy needed to understand. Humanity was prepared, and those who had dismissed or ignored their attempts would soon see the other side of Earth. The final message was crafted with extraordinary care. Every word was chosen to convey seriousness without malice, strength without arrogance. It was broadcast across multiple channels, using frequencies that could reach even the most distant corners of human detectable space. Scientists, linguists, and communicators worked together to ensure that every possible interpretation of the message would capture its meaning accurately. This was humanity's declaration, not of war, but of readiness and resilience. When the message was finally sent, It was unlike any communication humanity had ever transmitted. It spoke directly to the actions of the past, acknowledging the years of ignored attempts at dialogue, while also asserting the preparedness and determination of Earth. We attempted peace. Now you will meet the other side of humanity. The transmission declared. It was concise, clear, and powerful. There was no threat of aggression in the words, but an unmistakable firmness that conveyed the consequences of continued disregard. The response from the galaxy was immediate, though not in the way humans had expected. Many civilizations paused, reconsidering their assumptions about Earth. Some who had dismissed humanity as insignificant suddenly realized that the species they had underestimated had grown more capable and more vigilant than anyone had anticipated. Across the galaxy, for the first time, there was a sense of attention and cautious respect directed toward Earth. Humans had sent messages before, but this was different. This was the moment the galaxy finally understood that patience had its limits. Back on Earth, the impact of the transmission was felt not just in politics or strategy rooms, but across society. Citizens watched the news, listened to broadcasts, and followed reports of alien reactions. For most, it was a mixture of awe and pride. Humanity had always wanted to be recognized as peaceful and intelligent, and now the species was also being acknowledged as capable and resolute. The planet had demonstrated that patience was only one side of humanity preparedness, and determination were the other. The process of sending the message also served another purpose. It allowed humans to unify their focus, to consolidate the decades of research, training, and preparation that had gone into ensuring the planet's survival. Scientists checked systems one last time, ensuring that communication networks, satellites, and defense technologies were operating flawlessly. Pilots and engineers reviewed contingency plans. Humanity had been building quietly, preparing for a day when diplomacy might fail. And now that day had arrived not with hostility, but with clarity and purpose. While the galaxy debated the meaning of the final message, humans remained calm and confident. They did not seek conflict, but they understood that their warning would be taken seriously. Leaders emphasized that this was still an offer of peace, but one that carried the weight of experience and readiness. Humanity had grown from a species of hopeful communicators into a species capable of demonstrating its resilience, intelligence, and strategic thinking. This message, more than any other, symbolized that growth. The significance of this moment was not lost on the people of Earth. For the first time, they realized that their actions and their restraint had changed the way the galaxy saw them. The species that had once been dismissed, underestimated, or ignored had now taken control of the narrative. Humans had shown that they could be patient, kind, and creative, but they could also act decisively when necessary. It was a lesson for the galaxy. Peace is valuable, but it is not guaranteed without respect. In homes, schools, and public spaces, people discussed the meaning of the final message. Children learned about the history of human attempts at interstellar communication. Adults reflected on the decades of perseverance, understanding that every broadcast, probe, and experiment had been part of a larger plan. Scientists explained that while they had always hoped for friendship, they had also known that readiness would be necessary to survive. Humanity had matured, and that maturity was now being recognized across the stars. The final message also served as a turning point for Earth's internal mindset. While citizens still valued curiosity, creativity, and diplomacy, they now carried a sense of self-confidence that was born from experience. Humans had learned that peace requires not just goodwill, but vigilance. They had demonstrated that kindness could coexist with strength, and that preparation was not the same as aggression. The planet had proven that it could extend a hand in friendship, but it could also stand firm when tested. For the galaxy, the message became a moment of reckoning. Those who had underestimated Earth were forced to reconsider their assumptions. Analysts across distant civilizations studied human behavior, questioning how a species that appeared peaceful could have prepared so thoroughly for possible conflict. Diplomats and leaders debated the meaning of the broadcast, realizing that Earth had transformed in ways that were subtle, strategic, and undeniable. Humans had not announced a war, yet they had made their presence and resolve impossible to ignore. The act of sending this final message also strengthened humanity's internal unity. For decades, humans had been preparing quietly, building systems, strategies, and networks that could protect the planet. Now, for the first time, the world collectively understood the importance of that work. People recognized that their species had achieved a level of preparedness and intelligence that would define Earth's place in the galaxy. There was pride in knowing that patience and planning had brought humanity to this moment, and that the message itself was a testament to the species' growth. Ultimately, this message marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. Humanity's role in the galaxy was changing. They were no longer just a hopeful, curious civilization reaching out into the stars. They had become a species capable of commanding attention, demonstrating strategy, and asserting their value without threatening others unnecessarily. The galaxy had been given a choice: acknowledge the peace humans offered, or face the consequences of continued disregard. And so, the message traveled across the void, reaching corners of space that had long ignored Earth. It was a simple declaration, yet it carried the weight of decades of patience, preparation, and determination. We attempted peace. Now you will meet the other side of humanity. Those words echoed not with anger, but with quiet certainty, reminding the universe that humans were capable of both incredible hope and resolute action. The final message had been sent. Humanity had reached the turning point where patience met preparedness, where hope met determination. And though the galaxy had yet to respond fully, Earth had made its position clear. They had tried peace, but they were ready to show that they were not to be underestimated. It was a moment that would define the species forever, a statement that humanity's true strength lay not in aggression, but in the balance of compassion, intelligence, and readiness. While the galaxy was still digesting Earth's final message, the people of Earth were quietly continuing their preparations. For decades, humans had been working behind the scenes, building systems, networks, and strategies that the universe could barely imagine. Most of this work was not visible to the general public. To the outside world, Earth was the same planet, filled with ordinary cities, oceans, forests, and skies. But beneath this familiar surface, humanity had been quietly transforming, becoming stronger, smarter, and more prepared than anyone had ever expected. The preparation was not just about weapons or defense systems. Humans understood that true strength came from intelligence, coordination, and adaptability. Scientists, engineers, and strategists collaborated in ways that were unprecedented, studying alien technologies, understanding potential threats, and designing solutions that were both creative and effective. Each new system was tested repeatedly, often in secret simulations that mimicked every possible scenario. From small-scale encounters to large-scale threats, humans prepared for every eventuality. Every individual involved understood the gravity of what they were doing. Pilots trained relentlessly, practicing maneuvers and strategies that no one outside their team could imagine. Engineers built advanced satellites, probes, and communication arrays that could respond instantly to unusual activity in space. Scientists worked day and night to refine energy sources, propulsion systems, and defensive technologies that were quietly transforming humanity into a species that could hold its own in the galaxy. Even civilian volunteers participated, learning to support their planet in ways that were practical, innovative, and essential. This period of preparation was not driven by fear, but by responsibility. Humans had reached a point where they understood that the universe was full of civilizations with diverse motives, and not all of them would welcome friendship. Some might attempt to exploit, manipulate, or even harm Earth. Knowing this, humans took it upon themselves to ensure that their species would never be vulnerable. Every strategy, every plan, every technology was designed to protect, not to dominate. This careful balance between readiness and restraint became a hallmark of human ingenuity. The unseen preparations also extended to communication and diplomacy. Humans knew that words alone had limits, but understanding how to communicate effectively could prevent conflicts before they began. Linguists and anthropologists studied alien languages, cultures, and behaviors, predicting possible misunderstandings and devising solutions. Every message, even the final one, was crafted not just to be understood, but to convey the depth of human intelligence and thought. Humanity wanted the galaxy to know that they were capable of both reason and action, that they could seek peace, while being ready to defend themselves if necessary. During this time, humans also refined their organizational structures. The planet's leaders coordinated across nations, ensuring that knowledge, technology, and resources were shared efficiently. There were no rivalries or delays when it came to preparation. Humanity had united around a single purpose: survival and readiness. Researchers shared breakthroughs immediately. Engineers collaborated across disciplines, and strategists constantly updated contingency plans. Every person involved understood that this was bigger than any one nation, bigger than any individual. It was about the survival and reputation of Earth itself. Humans also spent years studying alien tactics and strategies. They looked at historical patterns, intercepted communications, and analyzed every encounter that had gone wrong or right. They learned which civilizations valued logic, which valued aggression, and which valued deception. By understanding these differences, humans could anticipate threats and respond more effectively. The goal was not to attack first, but to be prepared for any action, ensuring that Earth would never again be underestimated or ignored. In addition to strategy and technology, humans invested in resilience and adaptability. Cities and systems were reinforced to withstand potential attacks or disruptions. Emergency protocols were developed to ensure that life on Earth could continue even under extraordinary circumstances. People were trained to respond calmly and intelligently to crises, understanding that panic could be as dangerous as any external threat. This emphasis on resilience became part of the human identity, strengthening the species not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Despite all the hidden work, life on Earth still carried a sense of normalcy. Children played, schools taught, and families lived their daily lives. This balance between ordinary life and extraordinary preparation was deliberate. Humans did not want fear or tension to dominate their existence. Instead, they used their curiosity, creativity, and determination to build a stronger foundation, while still appreciating the beauty and simplicity of life. In doing so, humanity preserved its values, even as it became capable of extraordinary action. One of the most remarkable aspects of this preparation was the coordination across generations. Humans had been preparing quietly for decades, passing knowledge, skills, and experience from one group to the next. New generations were trained to think critically, adapt quickly, and work collaboratively. They inherited not just technology, but also the mindset of readiness, the understanding that survival depended on intelligence, vigilance, and unity. This long-term vision ensured that humanity's efforts would not be temporary, but enduring. By the time the final message had reached the galaxy, humans were ready. They had built a network of defenses, a web of intelligence, and a system of readiness that was unmatched in the known universe. Every aspect of their preparation was designed to complement their desire for peace. They did not seek war, but they understood that the universe could be unpredictable. This quiet readiness, combined with their history of patience and persistence, made humans a species that could no longer be underestimated. The preparation also had a psychological dimension. Humans knew that confidence and resolve were as important as technology. Leaders, scientists, and civilians alike were trained to think strategically, remain calm under pressure, and make decisions that balanced morality with effectiveness. They had learned that true power came not from dominance or fear, but from intelligence, coordination, and ethical responsibility. Humanity had developed a mindset that was both protective and creative, ensuring that any action taken would reflect the species' values as well as its capabilities. Humans also continued to explore space quietly, extending their knowledge and influence without drawing unnecessary attention. Probes, satellites, and exploratory ships collected data, mapped resources, and monitored potential threats. Every mission was carefully planned to serve multiple purposes: scientific discovery, strategic observation, and preparation for contingencies. Humanity's quiet expansion into space reflected their dual approach, seeking understanding while ensuring readiness for any challenge. As these preparations reached their peak, Earth had transformed into something extraordinary. On the surface, life remained familiar and comforting. Beneath it, however, humanity had built a foundation of strength, intelligence, and coordination that no other species had anticipated. The combination of creativity, resilience, and preparation made humans a unique presence in the galaxy, capable of peace, but fully prepared to respond to any threat. This period of preparation was a turning point. Humans were no longer just patient communicators reaching out into the galaxy. They had become a species that combined hope with strategy, kindness with vigilance, and curiosity with readiness. Every effort, every technology, every lesson learned over decades had built toward this moment. And though the galaxy had yet to fully recognize it, Earth had already changed fundamentally. Humans were ready in ways that were both visible and invisible, to show that their patience had not been a sign of weakness, but a preparation for extraordinary capability. In essence, humans had quietly grown stronger while the universe remained unaware. They had mastered the art of readiness without aggression, preparation without fear, and intelligence without arrogance. The unseen preparations ensured that humanity could face whatever might come next, not with panic or anger, but with confidence, strategy, and unity. They were ready to meet the galaxy on their own terms, and to show that Earth was not a planet to be ignored or underestimated. The first real test of humanity's preparation came sooner than anyone expected. A delegation from a distant civilization, one that had previously dismissed Earth's attempts at communication, approached the planet under the guise of diplomacy. They arrived in sleek, unfamiliar ships, expecting to intimidate or assess a species they considered inconsequential. But they had no idea what awaited them. Humans, having anticipated such encounters, were ready. Every defense, every strategy, and every contingency plan was already in place, honed over decades of careful preparation. When the alien delegation attempted to enter Earth's atmosphere, they were met with responses they had not anticipated. Human technology had advanced far beyond what many civilizations believed possible for a planet-bound species. Satellites adjusted automatically to track the ship's movements. Energy shields stabilized potential hazards, and automated systems ensured that no human life was at risk. It was a display not of aggression, but of precise and calculated control. The delegation quickly realized that Earth was not a passive, defenseless planet. They were dealing with a species that had thought through every possible scenario. Communication was the next phase. Humans reached out, not with threats, but with authority. The final message, which had already been broadcast across the galaxy, was reiterated directly to the approaching delegation. We attempted peace, Now you will meet the other side of humanity, the message said, calm but unyielding. The aliens had expected fear, hesitation, or perhaps confusion. Instead, they encountered clarity, confidence, and intelligence. Humans had demonstrated that they could respond effectively without resorting to violence, a combination that few species understood or expected. The alien delegation quickly realized that they had misjudged humanity. Every move they made was anticipated, countered, or observed. Humans had studied their tactics, predicted their behavior, and built systems that ensured they could manage any escalation. The delegation had assumed that Earth's patience meant weakness. Instead, they saw that patience had been paired with preparation and foresight. Humans had turned what might have been a threatening situation into a controlled, measured response that left no room for misinterpretation. For the people of Earth, witnessing this encounter was both exhilarating and affirming. Citizens watched as news channels reported the arrival of the delegation and humanity's calm, confident response. There was pride in knowing that years of preparation, research, and quiet coordination had come together in a way that demonstrated the true capability of the species. The planet had not needed to strike or threaten. Intelligence, readiness, and strategy alone had ensured that Earth's message was heard and respected. The alien delegation, now cautious and re-evaluating their assumptions, attempted to communicate, but every approach was met with careful monitoring and strategic countermeasures. Humans controlled the flow of information and movement without overtly restricting it, showing mastery over technology and strategy. The aliens understood quickly that their previous underestimation had been a mistake. Earth was not merely a planet that hoped for peace. It was a planet that could ensure its safety, while still extending an offer of dialogue. Observers from other civilizations began to take notice. Across the galaxy, reports of the encounter spread, analyzed, and discussed. Many were astonished. For decades, Earth had been perceived as a minor player, curious but insignificant. Now, humans had demonstrated a level of intelligence, preparation, and capability that could no longer be ignored. Analysts noted that humanity had achieved something remarkable. They had shown that a species could be both peaceful and formidable, and that strategy and planning could speak louder than weapons or aggression. Humans themselves were transformed by this first response. While the encounter was controlled and without violence, it confirmed everything they had been preparing for. They had learned that patience could coexist with readiness, that diplomacy could coexist with strategy, and that intelligence could coexist with decisiveness. The encounter was not just a victory in terms of strategy. It was a moment of self-realization, proof that humanity had become the kind of species capable of commanding respect without ever needing to strike first. Even as the delegation retreated, a clear message had been delivered. Earth had established its position in the galaxy, not through conquest, but through preparation, intelligence, and measured action. The delegation returned to their home civilization with a new understanding of humanity's capabilities. They had expected a species that might beg for respect or crumble under scrutiny. Instead, they had encountered a species that could respond calmly, anticipate threats, and assert itself with clarity. For the leaders of Earth, this moment reinforced the dual approach they had adopted. Seek peace, but be prepared for any challenge. They had known that other civilizations might test humanity, might try to provoke or intimidate. Now, they had proof that decades of planning, research, and quiet preparation were paying off. The message of humanity's strength had been delivered without bloodshed, and the world collectively recognized the significance of this achievement. Behind the scenes, scientists, strategists, and engineers continued to refine their systems. They understood that the first encounter was only a beginning, not an end. The galaxy was vast, and there were countless civilizations with unknown motives. But humanity's confidence had grown. and with it, their ability to act decisively while maintaining moral and ethical standards. The encounter had shown that readiness, intelligence, and restraint could create a power far greater than any weapon alone. The encounter also reshaped humanity's internal perspective. Citizens realized that their species had matured. They had learned that hope alone was not enough, and that patience without preparedness could be dangerous. At the same time, they saw that readiness did not require abandoning humanity's principles. Humans could still value life, seek understanding, and strive for cooperation, while simultaneously ensuring that their planet and people were never at risk. This balance became central to Earth's identity moving forward. Humanity's first demonstration of capability had effects beyond the immediate encounter. Other civilizations, hearing of the incident, began to reconsider their approach to Earth. Those who might have ignored or underestimated humans now realized that they were dealing with a species capable of both creativity and strategy, of patience and decisiveness. For the first time, humanity's reputation in the galaxy shifted from curiosity to caution and respect. Earth had shown that it would not be pushed or dismissed, but it also had shown that it could act ethically and with intelligence. As humans watched, analyzed, and learned from the encounter, they also took note of how much the galaxy had changed its perception. They understood that reputation was now as important as capability. They had demonstrated that the true power of a species lay not in aggression alone, but in the ability to anticipate, prepare, and act with precision. The first response had been both a test and a lesson, and humanity had passed with distinction. Even in the aftermath, humans remained calm and grounded. They had achieved a significant milestone, but they knew this was only part of a larger story. The galaxy still contained unknowns, civilizations with unpredictable motives and challenges that could arise at any moment. Yet humanity faced the future with confidence, knowing that their preparation, intelligence, and unity had created a foundation that could withstand even the most unexpected trials. The first response of humanity became a story that would be remembered for generations. It was not a tale of war or destruction, but a story of strategy, foresight, and quiet power. Humans had reached a moment where their patience, intelligence, and preparation intersected perfectly. They had shown that the side of humanity that extended friendship was the same side capable of commanding respect, ensuring survival, and asserting its presence in the galaxy. This first demonstration left a lasting impression, both on humans and on the galaxy. Earth had transformed from a species seeking acknowledgement to a species commanding it. The alien delegation, along with other civilizations watching from afar, now understood that humanity could no longer be ignored or underestimated. The first response had confirmed what Earth's leaders had known all along. Humans were capable of incredible patience, boundless creativity, and unmatched strategic thinking. When necessary, they could act decisively, ensuring that their presence in the universe would be recognized and respected. In the end, the first response was more than a tactical success. It was a message. Humans had shown the galaxy that they had tried peace, that they valued diplomacy, and that they were ready to act if ignored. This demonstration would define humanity for the generations to come. It was a lesson for all civilizations. Patience, intelligence, and preparation were the true measures of strength, and Earth had them in abundance. Humanity had taken its first step toward reshaping its place in the galaxy, not through violence, but through clarity, strategy, and the quiet power of a species fully prepared for the unknown. After the first demonstration of humanity's capabilities, the galaxy began to take notice in ways that no one had anticipated. Civilizations that had previously ignored Earth now watched with a mixture of caution and curiosity. Humans had shown that they were capable of patience, creativity, and diplomacy, But they had also demonstrated a readiness that could not be overlooked. The final message: we attempted peace. Now you will meet the other side of humanity, was no longer just words, it was a promise, backed by decades of preparation and careful planning. Earth's leaders understood that their first response was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and many civilizations had yet to encounter humans directly. But the reaction to the first encounter had sent ripples across space, and humans were now viewed as a species that could no longer be underestimated. This perception shifted humanity's role in the galaxy. They were no longer seen as a minor curiosity or an inconsequential planet. They were recognized as a species that combined intelligence, patience, and strategy with the capacity to act decisively when necessary. Back on Earth, people felt a new sense of pride and responsibility. Citizens realized that their species had changed fundamentally. They were no longer just hopeful communicators seeking acknowledgement. They were a species capable of asserting their presence while still valuing morality and ethical conduct. Schools and universities began emphasizing not just science and technology, but critical thinking, problem-solving, and strategic awareness. Humanity's long-term preparation had not only safeguarded the planet, but it had also nurtured a new generation capable of facing the challenges of the galaxy with confidence and intelligence. The alien civilizations, having observed Earth's demonstration, approached future interactions with a renewed level of caution. Some were hesitant, to engage, uncertain whether humans were allies or formidable adversaries. Others saw potential in cooperation, realizing that a species capable of such preparation and strategic thinking could be a valuable partner. For the first time, humanity was viewed not just as a participant in the galaxy, but as a species with influence and significance. This shift in perception changed the dynamics of interstellar relations in subtle but meaningful ways. While Earth had proven its capabilities, the planet's leaders emphasized that this power was not meant for conquest. Humans remained committed to their principles of cooperation and mutual understanding. The difference was that they were no longer naive. Diplomacy was pursued with intelligence, and any potential threat was countered with readiness. Humans had learned that respect in the galaxy could be earned not just through words, but through the combination of action, preparation, and strategic clarity. The long-term effect of these events was profound. Humanity's first response had created a legacy of both caution and admiration among other civilizations. Earth's reputation grew as a species that could balance kindness with strength, patience with readiness, and curiosity with foresight. This reputation would influence future generations, shaping the way humans approached communication, exploration, and conflict. The galaxy had learned that ignoring or underestimating humans came at a cost, and that recognition of their capabilities was not optional. On Earth, the story of the first response became part of cultural memory. It was celebrated not as an act of aggression, but as an example of what careful preparation, intelligence, and resilience could achieve. People shared stories of the early attempts at peace, the years of quiet preparation, and the first encounter with the alien delegation. These narratives inspired a sense of unity and purpose, reminding humanity of its ability to face the unknown with courage, wisdom, and ethical integrity. The success of Earth's demonstration also reinforced the importance of long-term thinking. Humans had prepared for decades, often behind the scenes, and their efforts had paid off in a way that immediate action alone could never have achieved. This lesson became central to human philosophy and strategy. Preparation, patience, and intelligence are as vital as action. Humans had proven that a species could remain true to its principles while simultaneously becoming capable of extraordinary achievements. As time went on, humanity continued to engage with the galaxy in a measured and thoughtful way. New ambassadors and communication channels were established, but now they carried the weight of Earth's reputation. Other civilizations approached interactions with respect, recognizing that humans were capable of both friendship and formidable defense. The balance that humans had struck between diplomacy and readiness became a model for interstellar relations, demonstrating that peace and preparedness could coexist. Internally, humans continued to build their knowledge, technology, and society. They remained curious, creative, and innovative, but now these qualities were paired with a clear understanding of strategy and resilience. The planet had transformed into a society capable of facing the unknown without fear, guided by intelligence, ethical principles, and a readiness to act when necessary. Humanity's identity had evolved, shaped by decades of experience, lessons learned, and careful planning. The final message, once a simple statement of intent, became a symbol of humanity's journey. We attempted peace. Now you will meet. The other side of humanity was more than words. It was a reflection of the species' growth, resilience, and strategic intelligence. The galaxy had learned to listen, to recognize, and to respect humans not because of threats, but because of the combination of patience, preparation, and moral clarity. Humanity had achieved something extraordinary. They had changed the way the galaxy perceived them, not through force, but through intelligence, foresight, and ethical action. They had proven that a species could remain humane while being fully prepared to face challenges, capable of balancing curiosity with readiness and patience with decisive action. This balance became the hallmark of human civilization, defining their place in the galaxy for generations to come. In the end, Earth's story became a lesson for the entire galaxy. It showed that patience and preparation were not mutually exclusive, that hope could coexist with vigilance, and that a species could pursue peace while ensuring its survival. Humans had faced the unknown, extended their hand in friendship, and made it clear that neglecting or underestimating them would have consequences. Yet they had done so without compromising their principles, maintaining the essence of what it meant to be human. The legacy of this journey endured. Future generations grew up understanding the importance of strategy, intelligence, and ethical action. They knew that patience was a strength, but readiness was essential. They saw that humanity's reputation in the galaxy was built not just on words, but on decades of careful, deliberate action. The planet had transformed into a species capable of remarkable thought, creativity, and resilience, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might present. Ultimately, humanity had shown the galaxy the other side of itself, not a violent or vengeful species, but one capable of hope, patience, and understanding, yet fully prepared to defend its values and people. This balance defined the species, earning both respect and caution from civilizations near and far. Earth had not only survived, it had established itself as a force to be reckoned with, a species that could extend friendship, pursue knowledge, and meet the universe with both heart and mind. The story of humanity's journey, from hopeful communicators to a species fully prepared and recognized across the galaxy, became a testament to perseverance, intelligence, and moral integrity. It was a reminder that true strength lies not in aggression, but in the combination of ethics, strategy, and readiness. And as humans continued to look toward the stars, they did so with confidence, knowing that they had earned their place, and that the galaxy would never underestimate Earth again.